In a dark apartment, someone keeps knocking on the door. Hannah goes to check it out and hears a growling noise, so she grabs her gun and waits. Suddenly, a monster breaks through the door, ready to attack, but Hannah quickly shoots it down. More monsters appear inside the apartment, and Hannah shoots them all with perfect aim. She remains unfazed when even more beasts burst in from the corridor. Hannah continues shooting without hesitation, quickly reloading when she runs out of bullets. The monsters keep coming and corner her on her bed, where she suddenly asks for things to stop. It turns out this is a video game, and she's noticed a glitched monster, so she informs the creator. Before hanging up, the creator asks her to join the tournament this year, but she declines, knowing she has no chance of winning. Hannah is a professional video game player and tester, a job that doesn't always pay well but is perfect for her as she suffers from agoraphobia, making her deeply afraid of leaving her home. Her door has multiple locks, including an electronic one with a password. After a day of testing the virtual reality game, she comforts herself by playing Tetris on her old Game Boy. Later, the mailman arrives with a package and asks for her signature. Hannah asks him to leave the package and device in front of the door and hide, which he does after some hesitation. Hannah then opens the door just enough to peek out and sign on the device. A little girl appears in the corridor, asking why Hannah is scared and if she can enter the apartment. Hannah declines, and the mailman, hearing this from the stairs, asks her to hurry. Hannah takes her package and goes back inside, noticing the little girl is gone. The interaction triggers her anxiety, so she locks the door quickly before having a breakdown. When she feels better, Hannah calls a friend to share that she got early access to the latest gaming controller and invites her to play. While waiting, Hannah exercises to stay in shape since she can't go out. Eventually, her friend Jen arrives and texts Hannah instead of knocking. Hannah unlocks the door and hides, allowing Jen to enter and close the door without triggering a panic attack. After Jen drops off groceries, they open the package together and find a strange-looking headband named Omnia with no instructions. When Hannah presses the button, the device connects to her computer and opens its software. Hannah logs in with the device number, and an AI voice welcomes her to Omnia, asking her to put on the headband. Once Hannah does, the AI explains that the device can read, measure, and decode her brain patterns. The images on the screen show real-time recordings of her brain activity, and it can control any other device or software, reducing her reaction time to 0 in gaming. First, they need to calibrate it, so Hannah starts the exercises while Jen cooks meals for the next few days. The first exercise involves typing letters that appear on the screen. Hannah starts by using her fingers but eventually types by just thinking. As the machine learns how she thinks, Hannah becomes so engrossed that she ignores the food. When the landlord knocks for the rent, Jen tells him to go away since Hannah doesn't hear the knock. Jen then announces she must leave, and Hannah finally gets off the chair to open the door. But the exercise on the screen continues. When the computer changes to the second exercise, the power goes out for a few seconds before returning. Hannah resumes calibration, this time using the mouse. For the next several hours, she works on calibrating the device, testing headphones and the microphone. Whenever she gets sleepy, she drinks energy drinks to stay awake. The EA notes her slowing reaction time and tells her to rest. Hannah goes to sleep, yet the device continues reading her brain patterns and the speaker starts playing lots of static noises in the apartment. Hannah has a strange vision of a child's hand and a bird in a cage haunting her dreams. When Hannah wakes up, she is horrified to discover her gums are bleeding. As she stares in the mirror, the little girl from yesterday knocks on her door and asks her to play because there aren't other kids in the building. Hannah explains she can't and shares stories of her childhood, explaining how her mother wouldn't let her out, so she had to learn to play alone. This is why she became a fan of video games and got addicted to Tetris. She offers to lend Tetris to the girl, but she doesn't respond anymore. Feeling nostalgic, Hannah searches for an old box in her closet and starts looking at childhood pictures, crying as she remembers playing with her dad in the rain. She still has the ball from those days, and when Jen visits again, they play with it as part of the device calibration, since the next exercise is about reflexes and depth perception. Jen gets bored and throws the ball on the bed while Hannah mentions music, causing the device to play some songs through the speakers. The girls have fun dancing together. Moments later, the next exercise involves paint. Jen refuses to help and leaves, so Hannah uses a tool to do it herself. Thankfully, just a little line is enough, and this finally finishes the calibration process. The EA explains the device will continue to learn the more Hannah uses it. Afterward, Hannah takes care of her wound and finally eats something before grabbing a bunch of energy drink cans and going back to the computer. She starts playing the game normally but soon stops using her hands, controlling everything with just her mind thanks to the device. As promised, her reaction time is flawless, and she easily wins every match. Meanwhile, in her room, the bed sheets move, and a mysterious hand grabs the ball. Hannah hears a noise and checks, but nothing is there. She keeps playing for a few hours and finally decides to enter the tournament under a nickname. At that moment, the ball rolls on the floor behind her, and just as she's about to pick it up, she's startled by a sudden knock on the door. It's the landlord, asking for the rent money again. While Hannah asks him for more time, the ball floats up and glitches until it disappears. The landlord says Jen promised the money many days ago, while Hannah thinks it was yesterday, making her realize she's lost track of time. Hannah promises the money will come next week and asks about a girl living in the building, but the landlord is already gone. Hannah returns to the living room and discovers the ball has disappeared. Later, Hannah goes through her exercise routine, not noticing the strange ghost appearing in her room. The next time she showers, she finds her mouth bleeding more heavily and suddenly her face becomes monstrous in the mirror, but it turns out to be a nightmare. As she tries to calm down, the ball reappears in the living room. While she notices this, the strange ghost appears behind her but goes unseen. Getting worried, Hannah activates her phone with her mind and calls Jen, asking her to come over and apologizing for her behavior. Then Hannah puts on her VR set and waves her hand over the ball, causing it to disappear. Doing the same brings it back and even transforms it into a bird that she picks up. The little bird flies around before returning to the floor and becoming a ball again. When Jen finally arrives, Hannah is working on her computer to make it run faster. She wants the hardware to keep up with her new gaming speed and win the tournament, especially since the prize is $250,000. Hannah also convinces Jen to bet money on her, as her win is pretty much guaranteed. 6 hours later, the tournament starts, and Hannah destroys every opponent without even trying, causing Jen to win tons of money. Suddenly, something appears on the screen, and when Hannah takes a closer look, a hand reaches out and tries to grab her, so she immediately steps away. The hand quickly disappears, and Jen is confused because she didn't see anything. Feeling too anxious, Hannah asks Jen to play for her while she takes a break. After taking the headband off, she goes to the bathroom and takes some medicine to stop an incoming breakdown. At that moment, Hannah feels her arm itching and checks under her band-aid to find that a simple cut has become a nasty wound. While Hannah cries, Jen explains she didn't win the match, but Hannah still passed to the next round. Jen reassures Hannah that she'll always be there for her, but Hannah remains silent. After Hannah comes out, they play retro video games, and she shares the story of the little girl, which Jen finds odd since she doesn't know of any children in the building. Hannah then confesses that her mother was agoraphobic too, so it's always been in her genes. She feels bad for becoming like her mother, and Jen offers to help her leave, but Hannah can't bring herself to do it. After Jen falls asleep, Hannah distracts herself by playing Tetris, not noticing the walls and objects in her apartment coming apart into floating cubes. The next morning, Jen notices Hannah looks tired, and Hannah isn't even sure if she slept. After Jen leaves for work, Hannah hears chatter and sees a shadow outside the door. The little girl speaks, and Hannah tells her she'll lend her a game, but then she finds the door has been opened. Terrified, Hannah gathers her strength and steps into the corridor. As she hears the girl giggling, she hesitantly takes another step only to hear her door close behind her. So she desperately runs back and tries to open it. It's locked, and Hannah must use her key and deal with the security chain. The lights start flickering, and the ghost appears in the corridor, screaming like a banshee. Horrified, Hannah keeps hitting the door until she bursts inside, quickly closing it and having a breakdown. After calming down, she calls the Omnia company to ask if any other testers have had side effects, but they assure her the device isn't at fault if the diagnostics were fine. They offer to take it back for repair, but Hannah decides to keep it to win the tournament. She keeps playing and reaches the top 3 in the tournament ranking. After the match, she's so tired that she falls asleep in her chair, and the ball falls from her hand. Suddenly, the computer shuts down, and darkness takes over the apartment. Hannah wakes up and looks around, finding her room empty. When she turns around, the little girl appears and says they've always been here. The ghost surrounds the girl and screams, causing the whole room to shake. Hannah covers her ears in pain as the noise makes her float, only to drop her after a few seconds. The computer turns back on, and both the girl and the ghost disappear. Moments later, Jen comes over to watch Hannah win the final round and become the tournament champion. Hannah, tired, falls asleep in the chair again but has time to hug Jen and celebrate her victory. She has a vision of a blood-stained screwdriver, but realizes it was a dream. Unsure of what's real, Hannah calls Jen's name and gets no answer. She looks at the screen and confirms she won the tournament. Suddenly, she hears the shower running, so she rushes to the bathroom to find it empty. After shutting off the shower, her arm itches again. Hannah tries calling Jen and hears the ringtone in her apartment because Jen left her phone there. Her laptop is there too, next to a package Hannah didn't bring in. Hannah's confusion is interrupted when her computer announces the prize money has been sent. Hannah asks the EA if the device is playing tricks on her, but the EA assures her it only does what her brain wants. While looking at her dad's pictures, the ghost appears near the door but disappears when someone knocks. It's the landlord, who confirms he got the payment. Hannah asks about Jen, but the landlord says he hasn't seen her in a while. Hannah eats the food Jen left for her, but it tastes disgusting, and she spits it out, discovering it's full of bugs. Hannah spends many hours in front of the computer, not knowing what else to do. The ghost appears behind her as time passes, but disappears when she moves. Her arm itches again, and she checks the wound, finding it's grown into a big, disgusting thing. Snapping out of it, Hannah keeps busy by playing with the ball while talking about the last year she spent with her mom. She wasn't allowed to go out, but she enjoyed being with her all the time. The ball kept bouncing against the wall, but when Hannah missed and it went into the room, something threw it back to her. Later, a new package arrived, and Hannah grabbed it without bothering to sign. Inside was the tournament trophy. She then looked at the package on the table and found a card that read, "For when you're ready, Jen." Hannah opened the box to find a brand new pair of shoes. As she put them on, Jen's phone rang with a call from an unknown number, but Hannah ignored it. Suddenly, the speakers began playing static, and the whispers of a woman grew louder until they were painful to hear. At that moment, Jen appeared behind her, and Hannah rushed to hug her, remembering how they had celebrated together. Noticing Jen was wet, Hannah stepped back and saw a bloodstained screwdriver in Jen's hand and a stab wound in her stomach. Hannah grabbed a phone to call for help, but when she looked back, Jen had disappeared. Feeling crazy, Hannah fell to her knees and screamed in frustration, causing a ghost and a little girl to appear briefly. Hannah realized the device was using her trauma to get in her head, so she tried to take it off, but it was still connected. Terrified, she decided she needed to leave and ran to her room to pack. Not seeing the other presents nearby, she paused to gather her strength, but a hand pulled at her jacket. Hannah turned around and saw a glitching body being dragged into the bathroom, so she followed it. To her shock, she found Jen's body rotting in the tub. She touched it to confirm it was real and broke down. Suddenly, the room changed, revealing the mess Hannah had been ignoring. She checked the rest of the apartment, finding it in the same condition, dirty and messy, with rotten food in the kitchen. Realizing she'd been in denial for weeks, Hannah panicked and ran through the stairs, pushing past her phobia. She made it to Jen's apartment, but when she turned on the light, she was back in her own place. Hannah watched in shock as a vision of herself stabbed Jen. Then the other Hannah turned and said, "Welcome to the Omnia," with the A.I.'s voice before transforming into a horrible monster. Terrified, Hannah ran out of the apartment with the monster chasing her. More monsters joined the chase with each step. Hannah reached the roof and stopped running, feeling the rain on her body after years of being inside. It reminded her of better times and calmed her. Reaching in her peace, she jumped as the monsters arrived. As she fell, she saw a glitching bird fly by. When her body hit the ground, Hannah reappeared in her apartment, where the ghost waited for her. Realizing it was her mother, Hannah begged to be let go and asked why she killed Jen. Suddenly, a knock on the door made the ghost disappear. The police were outside, but Hannah was having a breakdown. She promised never to leave the apartment again to prevent her mother from hurting anyone else. In the end, the police and paramedics broke down the door and found Jen's body, but Hannah ignored them, playing Tetris on her Game Boy. When the cops finally arrested her and removed the device, Hannah laughed. However, when they tried to drag her out, she panicked and screamed, causing the apartment to shake and the officers to fall as the door shut. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching this.